great players. They have a great organization. And you tell them one thing.
What is good, Raider Nation? It's your boy Raider Alex back with yet another video for you guys. Anybody that's new to the channel, you guys love Raider related content just like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Also make sure to hit that bell notification, that way you get notified every time I post a video just like this one. Without further ado, let's jump right into the topic of this video. The Las Vegas Raiders are coming off of a very disappointing performance last week against the Chicago Bears, where we got dominated on both sides of the football. And this week we are faced with a tough matchup on the road on Monday Night Football in prime time against the Detroit Lions, who so far have looked like a good football team. Their record stands as 5-3, the Raiders being 3-4. And just looking at the tape, there are definitely a couple of different very concerning aspects working against the Las Vegas Raiders in this matchup, and they will have to fix these issues if they want a chance to upset the Detroit Lions this week and just in general bounce back on their season, especially just coming off of a terrible performance like they did have last week against the Bears. The Detroit Lions are coming into this week as an 8-point favorite, which tells you that the Vegas sports books do not have a whole lot of confidence in the Raiders this week to upset on Monday Night Football. But look, this is a big opportunity for this Raiders team to bounce back and show they actually have some fight and some grit as a football team. And watching the tape against the Chicago Bears, one of the most concerning things that the Raiders showed on film was the piss poor tackling from the team that led to a lot of yards after contact and ultimately led the Chicago Bears to dominate us on the run, which helped them control the pace of the game and allowed their rookie quarterback to settle in and move the ball on us consistently. They won the battle up front against our defense. And as we can see in these clips shown in the background, the tackling was just terrible all around. But we also just gotta have to call out our veteran cornerback Marcus Peters, because on most of these plays the guy just shows absolutely no effort in making any tackles. It's one thing if you go in there and you're missing a tackle or whatever, but like I said, on most of these he's just watching people run right by him, and that cannot be acceptable for this defense. And look, if I'm the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator watching the Raiders film, I'm taking note of this. And if the Raiders choose to start Marcus Peters on a vast majority of these snaps, then look, I'm making a lot of runs towards his side and essentially just putting Marcus Peters in a position to make these open field tackles, because he's shown that he does not want to make them at all. So they're really going to try to make us pay if Marcus Peters is out there so often. So really for the Raiders, either one of two things have to happen. Either Marcus Peters just has to show more effort and actually come up and make tackles, or the Raiders need to limit his snaps, especially on the run downs. Now, the good news for the Raiders is the fact that cornerback Nate Hobbs looks like he will suit up for the silver and black this Monday. He's going to be back, and that's absolutely huge news for this defense, as he's just a very physical player and he does a very good job tackling and run support. So I would like to see a lot more snaps of Nate Hobbs over Marcus Peters, especially on run downs. The Raiders will just need to hope Nate Hobbs can show out and have a big game for us. And also, we should limit Marcus Peters snaps this week, just considering the matchup with the Detroit Lions, and also just based on the poor effort we saw last week from Marcus Peters. And look, ideally I only want to see him out there on passing downs and obvious passing situations. And now look, besides Marcus Peters, I felt like the Raiders throughout the season thus far on defense had done a pretty good job when it comes to tackling, especially compared to years past, especially too from our linebackers Spillane, Diablo. Overall, they've done a pretty good job tackling, but for whatever reason last week, just everybody on that defense struggled to make these open field tackles. It wasn't just Marcus Peters. And one thing I did notice, Divine Diablo got hurt last week, so maybe that played a bit of a factor. Either way, I don't think we would have won if he didn't get hurt, but something to consider. But unfortunately, the Raiders, it looks like Divine Diablo will miss this week against the Detroit Lions as well. So this is going to be a game where Luke Masterson will need to step up in that linebacker room. But besides the tackling, when it comes to stopping the run, the Raiders defense also, they got to do a much better job defending the screen pass. The Raiders last week got killed versus the Browns in that department. There's just so many different screenplays that went for big yards on them. And One thing that you look at with the Detroit Lions is they love to run these screen passes. They do a very good job disguising their screen passes as well, and they have just been very successful running these type of plays so far in the 2023 NFL season. And the Lions in 2023 are ranked 11th when it comes to total rushing yards, and they're ranked 5th when it comes to total passing yards. So look, very respectable numbers from this offense. They can most definitely move the ball, and really the way I look at it for this matchup, quarterback Jared Goff is going to be a huge factor for the Raiders defense if they want to have any type of success, because in my opinion, Jared Goff is very similar to the quarterback we have with Jimmy Garoppolo, and that's the fact that both of these guys are both quarterbacks who are not built to throw the ball 40 plus times and be put in situations where the offense is just so one-dimensional to move the football through the air. And Jared Goff really needs the play action pass to thrive, and the Raiders are just going to need to do a much better job up front on the defensive line and just stop the run and be prepared for these screen passes, and we cannot get killed like we did last week. Also, the Detroit Lions are coming off of a big loss to the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm sure they're going to want to bounce back just like the Raiders need to bounce back. So this matchup seems to be favorable from there when it comes to being able to run the ball, and the Raiders defense will need to bounce back and fight back. We cannot see the same type of effort we had last week against the Bears if we want any type of chance to win. Like I said, this is a perfect opportunity for the Raiders to show the NFL that this team has not given up on the season, and show that this team actually has some fight and some grit to them, and they don't back down easily against a very tough opponent, but in a big primetime matchup where the whole entire National Football League will be watching. So really the Raiders got to come out with a lot of intensity and physicality in this game. Now, oddly enough, especially with the Raiders being such a big underdogs in this game, like I said, an 8-point underdog, I have a weird gut feeling that the Raiders will bounce back in this game and just have a very competitive game against the Detroit Lions. So look, for anybody who likes to gamble, I would take the Raiders here. Like I said, I don't think the Lions are going to beat us by 8 points in this one, but you know, you never really know. And honestly, the way the Raiders usually do things, I wouldn't be shocked if maybe we somehow won this game, and you know, at that point we would shock the NFL. After that, I mean, that would leave us as the fan base, you know, we'd be so confused about the state of this team. It would just be crazy that we lose to a terrible team like the Bears, and then the next week we upset the Detroit Lions. But that's how I see this Monday Night Football matchup turning out for the Raiders. I think the offense will look way better this week than it did last week with Brian Hoyer. Now look, that isn't saying much since the offense was just so terrible, only able to put 6 points on the board. But if we look at it, Jimmy Garoppolo in the first half versus the Patriots, he did look a lot better than he did early in the season. He got hurt at halftime, so you know, we'll just have to see if he can continue that type of performance. But I think the Raiders finally get 20 plus points on the board. And I think maybe we get the first game from Jimmy Garoppolo where he just has an overall very solid performance. And maybe, just maybe, if we're lucky, he leaves the game without an interception. That would just be such a good sight to see for the Raiders, and it would be the first time he would do it this season with the Raiders. So those are my main takeaways from this week's game. Raider Nation, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you guys think I'm delusional? Do you think we're gonna get blown out, or do you think that the Raiders can bounce back, like I said, maybe even get the upset in this week's matchup? Let me know down below. And for anybody that's new to the channel and you guys love Raider related content just like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next one.